Hey, friends and family, hey, loved ones, hey, fools, hey, magicians and alchemists and gardeners and tools. How y'all fools doing? So I'm well, but I do have a headache today, and it started yesterday. Just doing my best with that to take care of me, to show up for me, attend to my needs, and just be with me where I'm at, and as I am. And yeah, so not avoiding the pain, but like not like forcing myself to go through it either. Like I did take some Excedrin last night after a couple hours of just like trying to drink some water and doing some other things to see if it would help. But like I was like, okay, well, this is just what it is today. And but like it just started getting worse, and I was just like, okay, I can choose like to get some relief if I want to. And although like sometimes I don't like to take stuff like that, especially like acetaminophen and things like that, because I don't like the effects that I feel from that. But yeah, after dealing with the headache for a few hours, and then just yeah, it's just like, okay, I don't have to make myself suffer. Yeah, go through this. So just like, yeah, it's just making that choice for me, like to receive some relief, and it did help. But yeah, I just woke up with it again today, and that's sometimes how my migraines, yeah, kind of go, where it's usually like on this side of my head, and it like usually lasts for like 3 days, and it just depends too. Like sometimes like on severity, like on how bad it is, and sometimes it does come in waves, so it's like kind of like a cluster headache in certain ways. But yeah, I've noticed that smoking doesn't help it, and so I've been restraining, refraining from like smoking a lot the last couple days, and so just really almost just ready to let that habit go. But there is like some psychological hold, um, yeah, some psychological attachment to it. It's not really so much physical anymore as much as it is psychological. And so it's just like I'm kind of willing to get out of my own way and surrender it, and not judge me when I do like indulge in it or give in to it, and just love me where I'm at and where I've been and where I'll get to be, where I get to be right now. And so I have been doing some follow through with my last video I recorded, which was, yeah, pretty long. And I was avoiding stuff, and it was just like, yeah, trying to avoid myself, trying to avoid feeling certain pain, trying to avoid fear, my own fear of pain, and yeah, what that pain was gonna be like, or look like, or feel like, and all that. But it's just like interesting in a way, like trying to avoid the pain kind of creates the pain, or kind of just draws, yeah, more pain sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of silly the way the monkey mind is tricksy in a lot of ways. So I've been, yeah, asking wild boar for help, so calling on boar medicine, and also salmon and moose and badger, and yeah, all the medicines really. But yeah, just working with a couple few right now intensely. And yeah, Badger's been super helpful and keeps coming up in the most delightful ways, really. Like, and it's all about storytelling and stories and the magic of stories. And yeah, the wisdom that are held, the wisdom that's held in the stories. Yeah. And looking at the bones of the story. And yeah, just looking at certain mythos and mythologies, and enjoying, yeah, the symbolism and the metaphor and the meanings and the messages. And so, yeah, I picked up this book today, The Return of the Feminine and the World Soul. I had some awesome friends over today for lunch, and we got to share some really beautiful, heartfelt, heart-based, whole-based things. And it's just, wow, just having these exchanges and this intimacy, like this whole new level of intimacy and being comfortable, like in that space and feeling safe, even though like sometimes I do get anxious about it and nervous, like it's all right though, like just like letting go and relaxing into love. And so after listening to my last video, I put some things together, and connected some dots, and it was very helpful to speak about it and then to go back and listen in that I don't know mind, and observe the judgments that I have about what's going on or what I'm saying, or my mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. But like just listening, really listening deeply. And it has been a lot about listening lately, and sometimes my resistance to that, because sometimes it's like wanting to avoid things that I want, or that I want to see, but sometimes my soul's asking me to see, but some of me sometimes doesn't want to see or listen because it requires accountability. And it's like, that ignorance and bliss thing, sometimes it's true, but a lot of the times it's not, for me anyways. So it hasn't been bliss. Maybe in certain ways, but for most ways it's caused a lot of pain. That's why I've like probably have such a beef with ignorance, because of the pain that it's brought, or kind of created for me. And then so I've been doing a forgiveness, like some forgiving, like forgiving myself again for not knowing, and forgiving others for not knowing, and for not seeing, and for not wanting to see, for that willful ignorance. Man, that's what I've been so angry with. And I just realized, it is frustrating when people don't want to open their minds and listen, but it's like it really was showing me more about me and where I've gotten in my own way and cock block myself. And I cock block myself, from receiving what I need. And because I feel like it's going to be hard, or it's going to be painful, or it's going to be too challenging, or it's too much work. But really that's an old program, and it's bullshit. And so it's just like getting over my little self to get through to my whole self in a lot of different ways. And so I got this book out to share with my friends we were talking about the songs of creation, and about like, that everything is talking to us, the whole universe and all of life is talking to us. And are we listening? Like, can we become aware of the language of life again? And it was, it's kind of awesome, like just like, really playing with these concepts, and just speaking from the heart about it, and just like remembering different things. And so I was just like, I think there's something in this for me. So after my friends left, I picked up this book and I just flipped it open. And also it was kind of an awesome synchronicity, because I've been nudged to work with Mugwort flower essences this week. And I was wondering where this card went. It's a card that came with the Dream Flower Essences kit from Flower Essence Services that my husband bought me a couple years ago for Christmas. It's an awesome Christmas gift. And the card was in here, and it is all about remembering. So it was in my book here, and so I just want to share it. Mugwort. I prepare for sleep, feeling the warm balm of life enfolding me. Rising from this warmth, my soul is carried by moon's silver threads. Through the gleaming eye of Luna, I enter the door of dreaming. I awaken and remember. Through the golden eye of soul, I enter day-radiant consciousness. I awaken and remember. I weave the golden threads of sun and the silver threads of moon into one whole self. So how beautiful is that? That's mugwort. And so I have used mugwort and mugwort tincture before that I intuitively like mixed with lavender, and I had no idea that the mugwort was for dreaming, and that it was for lucid dreaming, and that the lavender kind of helped soften like some of the intensity of the dreams, of the lucid dreams. And yeah, it was good. I found that out later, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. What a great combination, mugwort and lavender. And so, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And just like the lunar and the solar currents that I've been working with, which is super awesome and interesting, with the Om Ram Ramaya Swaha chant with Ra Ma. Ra is the solar current and Ma is the lunar current. And it helps balance. And so we're coming into equinox soon, which is a time of balance. And that's very, very awesome, very cool. And then just with my little table behind me, I have the sun and the moon right there and the flower of life in between them. And so it's just like, yeah, I love all that magic and the sync winks and everything that, relates to what I get to receive for me. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about, what I read today, just actually not too long ago, maybe just like 15 minutes ago. And it has a lot to do with some of the conversations that I had today. And so I got to share today with some friends. And so, with the page that Mugwort was, a little bookmark for, sometimes just stash certain bookmarks in the book, like where I'm leaving off reading. But sometimes I'm just like, I get a nudge just to put something in a book and then close it, and then I know it's there for me next time. And it just like, it's funny how it happens, how it comes back at the right time, or it comes in at the right time, or the messages. If I'm aware and listening and paying attention to my little nudges and intuitive feelings that I get, and get past like what my lower ego mind sometimes wants to do or wants to be focused in or attached to. But it's just, it's an awesome little process, like getting to know myself again, and trusting myself. So, page 40, Mugwort, and it's chapter 4, Feminine Consciousness and the Masculine Mind. And so it begins with, this is a response to a question from a woman in the audience to do with the doubts. And that's like, what I've been looking at as well, like self-doubt and self-confidence and self-esteem. And so in response to your question, this is by Llewellyn Vaughan-Lee. In response to your question, I'd like to share with you a byproduct of my recent investigation into the subject of darkness that primarily concerns women. In my work, I have often wondered why so many women seem to be caught in so much mental negativity and also so much emotional negativity. Because in my memories of previous lives, women who lived in a spiritual life weren't like that. They were attuned to the magic of creation. They understood and were in service to the secrets of life and the ways the outer world could be nourished by the inner world. They lived in harmony with the world, with life. I don't think they knew what a doubt was. I don't think lack of self-esteem entered their horizon. And so for the last 20 years, I've been trying to put this inner image I have of the feminine onto the women involved in spiritual life whom I have encountered, and it doesn't seem to fit. So I've wondered what has happened. And I've come to understand that it has to do partly with the mind. The mind is a very beautiful thing. It can do all sorts of extraordinary things. Extraordinary. Yes, it can think ridiculous thoughts on its own, but its nature is not negative. And yet I see how it can affect women and appear to undermine them so much of the time without them knowing it. It doesn't honor what is sacred within them or help them to live it, and it creates doubts that undermines their natural integrity. It often seems to poison them more than it helps them. I don't think the mind is meant to do this. I think the mind is really meant to be a helpful tool for living in this world. When you don't need to be in this world and go deep in meditation, you leave it behind. You become empty of thoughts and become immersed in a deep stillness. But in waking consciousness, it is a very necessary and useful tool, and it really is something very, very beautiful. Now, what I have come to understand is that men for centuries have developed the thinking capacity of the mind, and being men, they have developed a masculine mind. Until recently, girls didn't have the opportunity to go to school. In fact, there are parts of the world where girls still don't go to school. And so the feminine education of the mind never happened in our culture. All our education is geared for the masculine mind, and the masculine mind is quite different from the feminine mind. For example, the masculine mind thinks linearly. It's goal-oriented. There's a problem. We figure out how to solve it. Masculine consciousness is quite focused. The feminine consciousness, on the other hand, is relational. It looks around and asks, is nature focused? Is a squirrel, say, completely focused on being a squirrel? No. The squirrel makes a relationship to everything around it, and in the midst of all those patterns of relationship, it knows where the nut is, and it knows how to leap from branch to branch to get the nut. And feminine consciousness, by its very nature, works in the same way. It fills all these different patterns of relationship and how they work together. It is not linear. It functions quite differently. It has a different purpose. For example, when a woman has 4 children to look after and is cooking at the same time, she cannot be focused on one thing. So women's consciousness can hold many things in relationship all the time. But what happened in the last centuries is that as women became educated in schools and colleges designed by men to teach men how to think in a masculine way, they absorbed this masculine consciousness. They overlaid their feminine relational understanding with a masculine mind, and because they wanted to succeed in a man's world, they focused their energy on this masculine way of thinking. But it doesn't fully work for them. It is not in harmony with their real nature, and instead can create a deep anxiety in the feminine consciousness that something is wrong, but they don't know what it is. And so somehow this masculine consciousness in the woman then turns back upon itself, and instead of being a tool to function in the world, it also becomes a means by which women undermine themselves. And this masculine mind has, of course, for centuries been trained how to undermine women. Men have used their masculine mind to dismiss women's power and natural way of being very effectively for centuries. They know all arguments to dismiss these crazy, irrational women. So possibly when this masculine mind encounters this feminine consciousness, it just attacks it. And then the women believe it. Women must live in torment when this happens. Women have inherited this masculine mind that dismisses their own feminine understanding, which then produces all these negative thoughts and arguments that undermine their own instinctual knowledge. And I don't think it was meant to be like that. I think there must be some way to develop a feminine mind that is in harmony with feminine consciousness, which would then work very beautifully and help us to understand all the patterns of relationship within life and how life works. Because most men in the West appear to have no natural understanding of how life works, they can understand how machines work more easily than how life functions. So anyway, that's just a suggestion for women who have these minds that create doubts. If you don't have one of those minds, then you are very fortunate. And to go along with that, this recent exploration of darkness also showed me, and again, this mainly applies to women, how through the cracks in their psychological makeup, a certain negative energy comes in that makes women suffer more than they need to. And I don't think this negative energy actually belongs to the individual woman. I think it has much more to do with the suffering of the earth, with the abuse that has been inflicted on what is natural within life. Just as there is physical pollution, so there's a kind of psychic pollution in the world. It's as if the natural flow of life no longer takes place. It no longer flows from the inner to the outer and from the outer to the inner. So it's rather like one of those backwaters in a river that seems to just go around and attract all sorts of pollution. The water no longer flows clearly. It no longer sparkles. And that is the psychic soup in which we live. Nothing gets purified, and I think women, because they are closer to life and closer to the flow of life, take it in more than men. Men live in it, but they are focused and they're not just open to it in the same way. And so I think it creates a lot of problems for women. And of course, the more open and the more sensitive and the more evolved you are and the more aware of your instinctual nature and open to the earth, the more you get affected by this negativity, even attacked. And you don't even know what's happening. And then just to add a little something to this, if you're a really sincere woman and you work on your problems and you try to resolve them, and what you don't realize is it's not always your problem, and you can work on it forever. All it takes is a little wound inside of you. Maybe you feel sorry for yourself. Maybe you just feel left out. Maybe you have a tendency to be jealous. We all have those little character quirks. But you can get caught in it endlessly because through your wound comes the energy, the pain, which does not belong just to you, but to the greater wound. Through your own wound comes this primal soup, So what might be a little jealousy becomes an all-engulfing jealousy. And when you suffer and you go on suffering, and the harder you work on it, the more you suffer. And when you've cleaned out that little problem, you find there's another problem, and it comes in again, and so on it goes. So I used to always think women had the best of it because, unlike men, they have this direct access to the energy of life and the beauty of creation. And although, like everyone, they have problems and difficulties that need to be worked on, they always have life's essential purity within them. As my Sheikh Bai Sahib said, women are always pure. They already have all the higher energies in their chakras. They don't have to work and purify themselves in the same way that men do, which is why traditionally men often needed ascetic practices on the spiritual path. But nowadays, I'm not so sure that it's easy to be a woman. Anyway, I don't know if you find that helpful, but I just wanted to pass it along. It kind of came my way. So I thought that was great, but that was there. The Mugwort bookmark was holding that there for me. And then I flipped it open again, and page, let's see, is it 6? Yeah, to page 6. And then to page 13. And so this, let's see, the sacred principles of life have never been written down. They belong to the heartbeat, to the rhythm of the breath and the flow of blood. They are alive like the rain and the rivers, the waxing and the waning of the moon. If we learn to listen, we will discover that life, the Great Mother, is speaking to us, telling us what we need to know. We are present at a time when the world is dying and waiting to be reborn, and all the words in our libraries and on the internet will not tell us what to do, but the sacred feminine can share with us her secrets, tell us how to midwife her rebirth. And because we are her children, she can speak to each of us if we have the humility to listen. How can we listen to what we do not know? How can we reclaim what we have lost so long ago? Every moment is new. The present moment is not just a progression of past moments, but is alive in its own way, complete and perfect. And it is the moment that demands our attention. Only in the moment can we be fully awake and respond to the real need. Only in the present moment can we be fully attentive. Only in the present moment can the divine come into existence. Men may make plans, but a mother attentive to her children knows the real need of the moment. She feels in her being the interconnectedness of all life in a way that is veiled from the masculine. She knows one cannot make plans when there are so many variables, but one can respond with the wisdom that includes the whole and all of its connections. The divine feminine is asking us to be present in life in all of its wholeness without judgment or plans. Then she can speak to us, reveal the mystery of her rebirth. And because this is a birth, the feminine has to be present, not just as an idea, but as a living presence within us, within both men and women. Because although woman most fully embodies the divine feminine, part of her secret is also shared with men, just as a son carries part of his mother in a way hidden from her daughters. Yet to live the feminine is something we have almost forgotten. Our patriarchal culture has denied her power and real wisdom, has sanitized her as much as it has divorced her from her magic that belongs to the rhythms of creation. But we need her more than we dare realize. However, to fully encounter the divine feminine, the creative principle of life, we must be prepared for her anger, for the pain that has come from her abuse. For centuries, our masculine culture has repressed her natural power, has burnt her temples, killed her priestesses. Through his drive for mastery and his fear of the feminine, of what he cannot understand or control, the patriarchy has not just neglected her, but deliberately tortured and destroyed. He has not just raped her, but torn the very fabric of life, the primal wholeness of which she is always the guardian. And the feminine is angry, even if her anger has been repressed along with her magic. To welcome the feminine is to acknowledge and accept her pain and anger and the part we have played in this desecration. Women, too, have often colluded with the masculine, denied their own power and natural magic, and instead accepted masculine values and ways of thinking. They have betrayed their own deepest self. But we must also be careful not to become caught in this darkness, in the dynamics of abuse, the anger, and betrayal. It is especially easy for women to become identified with the suffering of the feminine, her treatment by the masculine, to project their own pain and anger onto men. Then we are caught even more securely in the web that denies us any transformation. If we identify with the pain of the feminine, we easily become an agent of her anger rather than going deeper into the mystery of suffering, into the light that is always hidden in the darkness. Because in the depths of the feminine, there is a deep knowledge that the abuse is also part of the cycle of creation. The Great Mother embodies a wholeness that contains even the denial of herself, and we need her wholeness if we are to survive and be reborn. Real transformation, like any birth, needs the darkness as much as the light. We know that the feminine has been abused just as the planet continues to be polluted. But the woman who has experienced the pain of childbirth, who knows the blood that belongs to birth, is always initiated in the darkness. She knows the cycles of creation in ways that are hidden to the masculine. She needs to give herself and her knowing to this present cycle of death and rebirth, and in so doing, honor the pain she has suffered. Then she will discover that her magic and power are also being reborn in a new way, are being returned to her in ways that can no longer be contaminated by the masculine and its power drive. And I'd say it's the fallen masculine, not just like the masculine. And I consider it the fallen patriarchy, not really the divine patriarchal. Yeah. And so it is like an inversion of the pure masculine consciousness. Yeah. So she needs to give herself and her knowing to this present cycle of death and rebirth, and in so doing, honor the pain she has suffered. Then she will discover that her magic and power are also being reborn in a new way, are being returned to her in ways that can no longer be contaminated by the masculine and its power drive. But without her full participation, there is the danger of a stillbirth. Then this present cycle of creation will not realize its potential. First, we need to acknowledge the suffering of the feminine, of the earth itself, or the light within the feminine will be hidden from us. We have to pay the price of our desires to dominate nature, our acts of hubris. We are not separate from life, from the winds and the weather. We are a part of creation, and we have to ask her forgiveness, to take responsibility for our attitude and actions. We need to go consciously into the next era, recognizing our mistakes. Only then can we fully honor and hear her. But there is always the possibility that we will not take this step, that like defiant children, we will not acknowledge the pain we have done to our mother and will not reclaim the wholeness that she embodies. Then we will remain within the darkness that is beginning to devour our souls, the empty promises of materialism, the fractured world of fanaticism. To take a step into maturity is always to acknowledge our mistakes and the wrongs we have done, giving birth to our wholeness. It is a real challenge to step into this matrix of the feminine, to honor something so sacred and simple as the real wisdom of life. But as we stand at the edge of our present global abyss, we need this wisdom more than we realize. How many times has this world been brought to the edge of extinction? How many times in its millions of years has it faced disaster? Now we have created our own disaster with our ignorance and greed, and the first step is to ask for the help of our mother and to listen to her wisdom. Then we will find ourselves in a very different environment from the one we presently imagine. We will discover that there are changes happening in the depths of creation of which we are a part, and that the pollution and pain we have caused are part of a cycle of life that involves its own apparent destruction. We are not isolated even in our mistakes. We are part of the whole of creation, even as we have denied the whole. In our hubris, we have separated ourselves from life, and yet we can never be separate. That is just an illusion of masculine thinking. There is no such thing as separation. It's just a myth created by the ego. But the ego is damn useful sometimes, like to navigate and to help differentiate. And the purified ego is a fully integrated soul. Yeah. So everything is part of the whole, even in its mistakes and disasters. Once we return to this simple awareness, we will discover that there are changes taking place that demand our participation, that need us to be present. We will see that the axis of creation is shifting and something is coming alive in a new way. We are being reborn, not in any separate sense, but as a complete whole. We do not have images in our masculine consciousness to think what this could be like, but this does not mean it is not happening. Something within us knows that the present era is over, that our time of separation is coming to an end. At present, we sense it most apparently in the negative, knowing that the images of life no longer sustain us, that consumerism is killing our soul as well as the planet. And yet there is also something just beyond the horizon, like a dawn that we can sense even if we cannot see. And this dawn carries a light, and this light is calling to us, calling to our souls, if not yet to our minds. And it is asking for us to welcome it, to bring it into being. And if we dare to do this, to say yes to this dawn, we will discover that this light is within us and that something within each of us is being brought into being. We are a part of a shared mystery. We are the light hidden within matter that is being awakened. For too many centuries, we have been caught in the myth of separation until we have become isolated from each other and from the energies of creation that sustain us. But now there is a growing light that carries the knowing of oneness, the oneness that is alive with the imprint of the divine. This is what is being given back to us. This is the light that is awakening. The light of oneness is a reflection of the divine oneness of life, and we are each a direct expression of this oneness. And this oneness is not a metaphysical idea, but something so simple and ordinary. It is in every breath, in the wing beat of every butterfly, and every piece of garbage left on city streets. This oneness is life. Life no longer experienced solely through the fragmented vision of the ego, but known within the heart and felt in the soul. This oneness is the heartbeat of life. It is creation's recognition of its creator. This oneness is the heartbeat of life. It is creation's recognition of its creator. In this oneness, life celebrates itself and its divine origin. The feminine knows this oneness. She feels it in her body, in her instinctual wisdom. She knows its interconnectedness just as she knows how to nourish her own children. And yet, until now, this knowing has not carried the bright light of masculine consciousness. It has remained hidden within her in the darkness of her instinctual self. And part of her pain has been that she has not known how to use her knowing in the rational and scientific world we inhabit. Instead of valuing her own knowledge, she has played the games of the masculine, imitating his thinking, putting aside her knowledge of relationships and her sense of the patterns that belong to creation. Now it is time for this wisdom of the feminine to be combined with masculine consciousness so that a new understanding of the wholeness of life can be used to help us heal our world. Our present scientific solutions come from the masculine tools of analysis, the very mindset of separation that has caused the problems. We cannot afford to isolate ourselves from the whole anymore, and the fact that our problems are global illustrates this. Global warming is not just a scientific image or concept, but a dramatic reality. And so I just have to say something about that. And so global warming, or the phrase climate change, that has been used to further certain agendas that are not true and do not have integrity. That there definitely is like certain earth changes happening, and there are like a lot of toxic pollutants out there. And so like that's like my focus is just like, yeah, let's be accountable on that toxic pollution. Like, where is that toxic pollution coming from, and where are we not honoring our resources? It's not really about having a carbon tax or about restricting people from innovating and creating. That actually just plays into more toxicity in certain ways. And that's what I wanted to share. Take it or leave it. So we'll continue with this. Global warming is not just a scientific image or concept, but a dramatic reality. So pollution, the toxic pollution, combining masculine and feminine wisdom, we can come to understand the relationships between the parts and the whole, and if we listen, we can hear life telling us how to redress this imbalance. There is a light within life, known to the alchemists as the lumen naturae, that can speak to us, speak to the light of our own awareness. There is a primal dialogue of light to light, which is known to every healer as she listens to the body of her patient and allows it to communicate with her, allows its light to speak to the light within her. Through this dialogue of light, she comes to know where to place her hands, the herbs that are needed, and the pressure points to be touched. This direct communication is combined with the knowledge of healing she has learned, allowing an alchemy to take place that can reawaken energy within the patient, realign the body and soul. This is how real healing happens, and what is true for the individual is also true for the world, except that we are both the patient and the healer. The world's wounds and imbalance are our wounds and imbalance, and we have within us the knowledge and understanding to realign ourselves and the world. This is part of the mystery of life's wholeness. The feminine can give us an understanding of how all the diverse parts of life relate together, their patterns of relationship, the interconnections that nourish life. She can help us to see consciously what she knows instinctively, that all is part of a living organic whole in which all the parts of creation communicate together, and that each cell of creation expresses the whole in a unique way. An understanding of the organic wholeness of life belongs to the instinctual knowing of the feminine, but combined with the masculine consciousness, this can be communicated in words, not just feelings. We can combine the science of the mind and the senses with inner knowing. We can be given a blueprint of the planet that will enable us to live in creative harmony with all of life. A new magic is present. What does it mean to reclaim the feminine? It means to honor our sacred connection to life that is present in every moment. It means to realize that life is one whole and begin to recognize the interconnections that form the web of life. It means to realize that everything, every act, even every thought affects the whole. And it also means to allow life to speak to us. We are constantly bombarded by so many impressions, by so much media and advertising, that it is not very easy to hear the simple voice of life itself. But it is present, even with the mirage of our fears and desires, our anxieties and expectations. And life is waiting for us to listen. It just needs us to be present and attentive. It is trying to communicate to us the secrets of creation so that we can participate in the wonder that is being born. We have been exiled from our own home, sold a barren landscape full of soulless fantasies. It is time to return home, to claim what belongs to us, the sacred life of which we are a part. This is what is waiting for us, and its signs are appearing around us. They are not just in our discontent, in our sense that we have been exploited and lied to. They are in a quality of magic that is beginning to appear, like the wing beats of angels we cannot see but we can feel. We are being reminded of what we really are, of the divine presence that is within ourself and within life. We long for this magic, for a life that unites the inner and outer worlds, and this other is already with us in ways we would not expect. We just have to be open and receptive to say yes to what we cannot see or touch, but can feel and respond to. And for each of us, this meeting of the worlds will be different and unique, because we are each different and unique. It is the sacred within life itself, within life speaking to us in our own language. Maybe for the gardener, it speaks in the magic of plants. For the mother, in something unexpected in the ways of her children. Always it is something glimpsed, but not yet known. A promise we know we have been waiting for. Children themselves feel it first, but for them it is not so unusual. It is part of their air. They breathe the light they live in. They have not yet been completely banished, and maybe they will grow into a world in which this magic remains. The mystery of the divine feminine speaks to us from within her creation. She is not a distant God in heaven, but a presence that is here with us, needing our response. She is the divine returning to claim her creation, the real wonder of what it means to be alive. We have forgotten her just as we have forgotten so much of what is sacred, and yet she is always part of us. But now she needs to be known again, not just as a myth, as a spiritual image, but as something that belongs to the blood and the breath. She can awaken us to an expectancy in the air, to an ancient memory coming alive in a new way. She can help us give birth to the divine that is within us, to the oneness that is all around us. She can help us to remember our real nature. Yeah. So, yeah, that was beautiful, and I love always picking this book up. I have read it several times, and there's always like a love receiving his wisdom and the wisdom that he shares. Llewellyn Vaughan-Lee, The Return of the Feminine and the World Soul. And I love the picture on the cover too. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, love, and thank you, life, and thank you, wisdom. And so, yeah, that just goes along perfectly for me today and the things I've been working with in the last couple days since since it was like, okay, I'm willing to face this. I'm willing to confront what I need to face. And one of the things that I got was, so looking at where I felt powerless and where I was still playing the victim. And just like I got it in a new way. Like it came in and it was just like a light bulb came on. I was like, oh, like already, like it's like kind of like some of me already knew this, but I received it in a way that kind of connected, something for me. And it was just like, oh yeah, just denying my own power and playing small. It was like one of those things where I was laying in bed and before sleep, and it was just something where I was drifting in and out, and then like just open and receptive, and it just was able to come in, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. But remembering to relax into love, and that's Durga and the divine feminine wisdom, relaxing into love. And that is like what makes presence possible, like true presence possible without the judgments or the plans. Yeah. And so just kind of remembering those things. And so relax into love, and love, let it be. Love is free, so be free. Love always. Love, let love be. Received, offered, given, and shared freely and fully. Let go of attachments and trust this love, so be. Believe in myself, allow this for me. Be all that I am, all my love for all of me and we. And so just kind of looking at different things. And I had some strange dreams this week. It's kind of looking at those things. And I've super appreciated assistance from the maiden and the crone this week, and working with those two archetypes. They've been powerful for me. I mean, I've always worked with the mother, but I haven't very much so with the maiden and the crone. So it's been really nice, like to feel into these other aspects and energies and the power, the power that the feminine holds, and that interchangeability and fluidity, and that yields to life. And I started on an art project, and that my scapegoat. So it's the scapegoat, and that has been so amazing, really, for me to work on and to work with and to play with. And I'm going to share it. I'm going to show you what I have going on with it next time. But it's like, wow. I mean, not that like the art is so grand on it or anything, but it feels right for me. And then just loving the colors that I'm playing with, and just like, and the labels, and just seeing certain things in new ways. And it also brings me back to my board that I made, and it had Vesta on it. It was like it totally was a Vestal Virgin archetypal theme feel to it. And it was about the keepers of the flame and all of that. And Vesta is that divine spark within us, that divine light within us. And the sacred fires, And so, the transformation and purification of the fire and all that. But I had this little phrase glued onto Vesta's chest that was upside down. So in a way, it made me think, if she's looking down, she's reading it to herself, or like it's me, like reading it to my own self. And it said, worn out clothes and puts on new ones. And so I can see like how creating and choosing this scapegoat, like to express this and to create it and just to give it a name, to give my pain and suffering a name, and look at and see like, and to receive and just like let it come through me for me, And so it's just pretty magical in a lot of ways, like how like my creative spirit and my creative soul, my fertility is leading me to what I really need for, my whole based healing. And it's just really fun and enjoyable too. And it's just like, and it is the magic and the joy of being alive. playing in that creative field. So I'm glad, grateful to be alive and playing with life. So I'm thinking about my scapegoat and the words in the diagram, and I thought about a few more that I could add and subtract. But I really was wanting to own my own shit and my accountability, and so I've asked to see things and be shown, or to view them through a lens of love. All I love, all I am, all we are. And as powerful, loving, living, powerful, filled with light, strength, and potential, but also see and love us as we are. Discern and know myself and allow all as we are. Respond and be clear, be present, be here. As much as I can, practice and blend, own my power and my right to be me, and allow me my weaknesses, programming, wounds, and mistakes. I forgive me for not knowing. I forgive all, so let it be. And so then I started writing a little bit. This was on September 14th, Tuesday. So it was kind of like looking into some of these words, and then I kind of got some things about, oh my God, no wonder we're fucking schizophrenic. You know, like with that split mind and that split heart, separate heart, separate mind, and then the two hemispheres of the brain that have been separate. And so it's interesting, like, that we are like reconnecting those two hemispheres and coming into balance and union and wholeness as one. Yeah, and that's like part of the magic, like these energetic changes, and then the physical and the physiological and psychological changes as well. And it's really interesting. And so, I was looking at like where I have judged, condemned, rejected, and been the judge, jury, and executioner as well, since it's caused me so much pain. Like, where have I contributed to that, and where can I take accountability and for my participation in the desecration, you know? And so it's just like, I'm willing to take accountability for that, because I helped to create what is, and I can help create what will be. And but may it serve the whole and its integrity. And so it was like, I was just kind of looking at like certain things, like especially certain things that were repeated over and over again from different places, like, and in the media, a lot of the pop culture stuff, and just in our societal culture, and like, public indoctrination, or brainwashing camps that are thought of as schools, you know. And so it's interesting that, like, I was like, I've felt like a prudish whore before and a vain slut. And I was like, you know, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, that prudish part of me and that wild part of me. And, like, there's so many contradictory things that women are told not to be. And so it's no wonder, like, you know, sometimes that we're all sorts of schizoid. And so it's just kind of funny, schizo. The words and the labels on the scapegoat that were coming to mind, so whore and slut. And then I thought, well, I'm prudish as well, or I've been thought so, or labeled as such, and I have felt really prudish at certain times in certain binds where it was uncomfortable for me, to be like around someone who was like really kind of raunchy, or just like sharing a little bit too much. Like, in a way, it's a shadow dump in certain ways where I'm not asking for that. It's unsolicited. Oh, I got to tell you about this. And it's just like, okay, I don't know why you thought you had to share that with me, but all right, you know? And so it's just like kind of funny, like, where I have felt like prudish. Like, I didn't really know what that was about. Like, is this like crossing a boundary, or is it just something I'm uncomfortable with? Because really, like, it's only like the way, certain people or certain styles express, like, I don't know, it's almost like venom in a certain way, like, but it's, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it resonates sometimes, and I'm willing to see more into that. But just like, I've judged myself for being prudish or prudy, you know, in certain ways, but like in other ways, like, I know like that, we all have our different comfort levels, and what we're okay expressing and sharing, or and all that. And so So sometimes like the other is way too raunchy or too forward or way too comfortable or familiar with me in the ways that they spoke of or expressed their own sexuality or their energy. And some of those words they used felt off-putting and almost offensive. It just a turn off, and it just kind of shut me down, where it's not sexy. Like in certain ways when it's crude like that. Like, I mean, I don't usually censor myself, like talking with people that I trust and feel like, accepted by. Yeah, it's just, I guess I have my own preferences and prejudices, and maybe that's all it is, really. But yeah, just like paying attention to like certain feelings, because sometimes just getting like cringy feelings, like ugh, like I don't need to know that. Yeah, feeling cringy feelings at certain phrases or expressions of animalistic based desires and the crude language and out of the blue announcements that they think that I want to hear, that they just have to share with me. So it just like makes me wonder why some things are such a turnoff, or I feel so repulsed or repelled by them. And so yeah, it's just kind of like attracting and repelling. And so maybe it's just not of like mind, and maybe that's all it is. And it's and then I kind of read too much into it and overanalyze it, and then judge me as wrong, or judge the other person as nasty or something. And so that's okay. Like, I'm willing to see things as they are, and if I'm not, like, if it doesn't feel good to me, I can always like say that too. So and say, well, that's awesome that you feel good about that, but however, I'm not really comfortable maybe hearing that much detail, or that part of the story. That yeah, you can keep that to yourself, maybe, or you can share that with someone else, maybe. But yeah, I guess it's just helping me with my discernment, and I'm willing to learn. So just wanted to add that. So prudish whore and vain slut, no wonder we're all sorts of fucked up. LOL, yeah. Split mind, Madonna whore complex, wild and pure. Yeah. And really our wildness is that purity that we have, and we've been confused that those are not part of the same thing, that they're separate or they're split. And so it's kind of interesting to me, like, where it reminds me of one of my very first soul collage cards that I've shared a couple times. One was the wild child and one was the pure girl, and so it is kind of bringing me back to that. And integration. And so innocence, radiance, and realization. Owning my shit, oh yeah, all of this. And I'm willing to admit that there is a hypercritical asshole perfectionist and petulant child who wants her own way, and that lives in me. And there has been, like, I have held in impossible standards for myself, and sometimes for others, to always achieve. And so it was never enough for me. It didn't compare to the romanticized fiction or my dream fantasy, my false reality, excluding the parts I didn't like about me or we, or I thought I had to hide to protect and guard me, hiding my true self, hiding from me and we, hiding, playing small but not always, just hiding certain parts and then overcompensating. Creating elaborate mental screens, mental streams, and mental freeze, bicycles frozen in a pond circulating, stuck in the past where I've been limiting me and we. But now I'm taking accountability for the gold in my shadow and the false image and conditioned personality, the complexes, choices, and opportunities to master my mind and take it one moment and one day at a time, one breath at a time, one step at a time. Unravel and unwind through this cycle in time. Let go and do my best, relax and unwind. Relax into love and be free, all is mind. Through the heart you will know, through the one you will see, through the darkness, shine your light, be the change you want to see. Give the world what you see it needs. Gifts are forgiving, so all love is free, all love is freed. Free to be forgiven, free to be given, free to be received. Free to be embodied, offered and seen, circulated freely. So the miser, the greedy son of a bitch, the love you withhold is the pain that you carry, possession or self-ownership, partnership, relationship, cooperation, sovereignty, and authorship. And I ask myself some questions. What am I avoiding or carrying on? Or what am I holding on to? What am I denying or disowning, disallowing? What am I not allowing myself to acknowledge? What am I not willing to see? Let it be. I am willing. I am willing to see all I need and get to see, receive, allow for me. So let go and surrender. Let it be. I am willing. And so, yeah, I did see some interesting things too, and it had to do with poor choices and power choices, and what those were about. If they were faith-filled or fear-filled. Yeah. And so, just making the room and making the space. Review to be true. Patience, surrender, presence, reception, receptivity, open to the new, the full, whole truth. I'm not doing this all alone. Call in and call on my resources and gold, my assistance, my connections, and my inner muse. I am bright and beautiful. Address self-imposed rules, limits, restrictions, old beliefs and blocks, old strategies and inverted laws. Shadow side of the law of one and the archon split, the schizo mind, to tame the beast inside. Strength, bring forth that which is in you to save you. I'm not sure, but I am willing. I'm not sure how, but I'm willing. And give your pain a name, the pain of separation and that menticidal game. The ignorance of suffering and the arrogance of genocide, the pain of being trapped in a mind that rejects and disallows the fullness of I. Building parallel structures and networks, inclusivity and unity, creating the life I want to live, give, receive, share, dream, and be, participating joyfully in the sorrows of the world. Participating fully, fully for me. So explore symbols, magic, correspondences, themes, and all these things around the equinox, Mabon, or the autumn equinox, and pagan Thanksgiving, which is on the 22nd this month. But I get to share and host a little circle over here this weekend, and so I'm looking forward to that. And I have like lots of gifts to share and some awesome stuff to prepare. And I just started working on that this week, like just with cleaning up my space and gathering certain things to get together and just setting my intentions and all that, but like really inviting the universe to go to work on our behalf to serve the integrity of the whole, and letting go of control. But yeah, it's interesting because I have had like a lot of anxiety and nervousness come up around it, and it was just so funny. Like yesterday it was kind of like really hard to kind of let go of it because I've been having like a lot of mental chatter happening where it wants to just keep hooking me into like a story, and it's just been like it's required a lot of focus and just kind of a trust and a willingness and just to surrender it and let it go. Like I know that I don't need to understand it or fix it or do anything with it. I just get to let it go. And so that's like a different strategy than I've employed before. And so, it's kind of interesting, and it feels like it's freeing up the energy a lot, instead of like putting me back into a loop again. And so, that's been interesting. And so, what I got to confront was certain things about me that I, had felt so hurt about, being rejected and denied and disallowed, and seeing kind of in certain ways, like in deeper ways, where I've disallowed and dishonored and denied myself because of self-doubt and because of certain parts that I didn't like about myself, and certain parts that I believed or I was taught were wrong for me to be, or wrong for me to express. Like certain feelings and all that. And so, it was really great to just kind of look at certain things and to also realize that yes, I've made certain choices lately where I'm going to see everyone as powerful, even if they're not connected or owning their own power. I'll still see them as powerful because they do. They always have that choice to choose, like to own their power and to claim their power and to operate with integrity, and to to choose what they need for themselves. And so that's been like really empowering. And so that's what I get to choose. And so I was looking at these labels and these things, the psychological attacks and like this way of manipulation through like making us believe like that we're these pieces of crap. And that, yeah, we need someone to rule over us because we can't do it ourselves, obviously, you know. But like maybe we're just we've been undermined again and again and again and again, and we've learned to undermine ourselves. And so it's just interesting. So these labels: prudish whore, vain slut, delusional, useless, schizo, deviant, undesirable, misfit, waste of space, waste of time, piece of shit, disgusting, ugly, broken, fat, not enough, imperfect, unloved, outcast, outlier, eccentric, and weird radical, weak, unhinged, white devil, heartless, ruthless, truthless, incorrigible, wild, unruly, defiant, oppositional rebel. So I thank that rebel for all the help that rebel has helped me, like, with, like, so that I could be here and that I could survive in this, yeah, in this inverted matrix. So, making me think, who and where have I judged, compared, rejected, cast out, and condemned? And so, yeah, just kind of looking at those things, like, where is this, like, and I realized, yeah, that I was so very angry with them on the outside for refusing to see how they've played into the lies and they've hurt me and we. Yeah. Victim judgmentality, self-importance, and self-pity. Poor you and poor me, poor everything. Apathy, overwhelm, and suppressed pain and rage. Yeah. Mind-controlled, pride, and greed. Yeah. Me. So there's where the narcissist comes in, too. And so, yeah, where we've been conditioned in certain ways to play these roles out, and we haven't even realized, you know, like the extent of the control and the manipulation. And so it has helped me a lot, like, to look at my own things. So labels to be cast off and aspects to be neutralized, alchemized, synthesized, purified, unraveled, and rewired, integrated, accepted, surrendered, and brought into the light to reveal a heart of gold. And that's right. So, man, I've been feeling all sorts of nervousness and anxiety. Is there lots of fear and feelings of instability? Well, yes, there is. As a matter of fact, the whole collective being purged and cleansed of that. Just let go and let it be. Let it move through and be surrendered and released. No need to fix, control, or understand anything. No need to see it or overanalyze things. No adding, subtracting, manipulating necessary. No constructing or attaching. No possessing or magicking. No control is necessary. Just let it all be as it is, as it gets to be. Do my best to trust and set it free. Set me free. Set love free. Let it be. I open and receive to the best of my abilities. Respond, allow, and trust in thee. Trust this love and trust in me. Realizing that I disallowed me, I felt powerless, and I agreed to believe that I had no power or I had no right to be, disallowing me my power and denying it, denying me, denying my power and my legitimacy, playing the victim and poor me, waiting for a knight, a saint, a guru, a parent, a lover, a friend to rescue me and we, some external authority that could affirm my worth and value and hold it, carry it, show up for me. Show it to me and show up for me. When I'm the one I really need. I feel good about myself and I receive all of me. Relax into love and be received. Let go and let my love hold all of me. Freely and fully, authentically, I am willing, so let it be. So, yeah, I just wanted to follow up with those things. And thank you, Wild Boar Medicine and Moose Medicine, Encouragement, and Salmon, Returning to Source. And the Wisdom of Not Knowing. Thank you, Black Panther. And thank you, Jaguar, for integrity. Black Panther for helping me face the fear of the unknown, and for helping me to find the courage to remember. So here's to remembrance, and to reverence, and to love, and to revelry, and to celebration, and observation, and the gift of being love, and the gift of receiving, the giver and receiver as one. So balance and harmony and peace, wellness, wholeness, and freedom and accountability. And so, Mugwort, I prepare for sleep, feeling the warm balm of life enfolding me. Rising from this warmth, my soul is carried by moon's silver threads. Through the gleaming eye of Luna, I enter the door of dreaming. I awaken and remember. Through the golden eye of soul, I enter day radiant consciousness. I awaken and remember. I weave the golden threads of sun and silver threads of moon into one whole self. I awaken and remember. All right. Sending love to you all. May you feel peaceful. May you be well. May you feel held, safe, and loved, for indeed you are. Always. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.